Hello, and hello from Amsterdam. I'm at the Things Conference, the fifth Things Conference in Amsterdam, here in the Netherlands, and I'm with co-founder and CEO of the Things Industries, Wienke Giezeman. Hello, Wienke.
Hi. Thanks for having me here, Nitin. Apologies for my voice. This is the second day of our user conference, so I've been talking a lot, but thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Well, that's okay. I've seen you speak, and I think you are very energetic, and you project, you corral an audience. I mean, 5 years, you've built up quite an ecosystem. So tell me how you've gone in that 5 years.
Yeah, so we started our company in 2015 already, and our user events started in 2018. And when we started IoT, in 2015, we saw the hype, but we also saw that it was incredibly hard to be successful with IoT. So our strategy was to throw a ton of developer tools at the market, open source, until we found kind of signs of kind of positive business cases. And this event is a place where all these developers and engineers and silicon companies and IoT platforms come together in the LoRaWAN niche and collaborate, share knowledge, and get inspired.
And I think that's the theme of this year's conference is specialize but collaborate, isn't it? Tell me a little bit about what you mean.
Yeah, so our mantra is let's build this thing together. This is how we started the company in 2015 with a global IoT community, and I think specialize and collaborate is is more the kind of the more corporate vision, and it's also something that we've seen successful. So when you have a complete end-to-end IoT solution, for instance, a simple sensor solution, so many different technologies have to come together, and it's almost impossible to be good at all of them. So you have to collaborate. And how can you, in a many-to-many way, collaborate? By using open standards, right? And ease of integration through open standards. And that's I think what the message was. And we've been a bit distracted over the last 4 or 5 years as an industry because there was this insane amount of capital which drove a lot of kind of plans where people wanted to take the entire pie, and now their cash is not there anymore, and every company has to look at where are we good at and how do we make sure that out of the box integrates with my partners, my customers, and my competitors. And that's what you see here. All these solutions, all these devices here. I mean, I think every device here, like for every device, 10 of our partners can say, that's my device. Because something of them is in there, you know? And yeah, that makes a great ecosystem.
I mean, I'm not sort of praising you here unnecessarily, but I think what I see since coming here since 2019 is just the showcase of all the different types of applications. And that's the problem you have also. I think you showed in a pie chart yesterday that there's no one big market. It's so niche. I mean, everything is like 5%, 5%, 5%. Yeah. So there's so many applications. I mean, you've got different building management, environmental, industrial, health. Yeah. So how does one tackle this market?
Yeah, so that one tackle this market by that it takes longer, and that embracing the fact that every niche, every market can be addressed only by market specialists, not by IT specialists, and the IT specialists need to accept they need to serve as a commodity to kind of the true solution specialists. And I think another thing we've seen over the last few years is that you barely, like I think when we had this 5 years ago, maybe 1/3 of them were...
It was over there, I remember.
It was actually over there. Half of them were 3D printed. Yeah. Right, and now you barely see any of them. You see companies like Pepperl & Fuchs and Thermocom, they are kind of decades-old industrial companies, and they are specializing in industrial sensors. And they are adopting LoRaWAN as a commodity for connectivity in an industrial site. And that's really, really good sign of maturity, that the specialists are adopting the IoT as a commodity. And this is the worst VC pitch ever, right? I'm, as an IoT company to investor, we are kind of a commodity, and but it is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a market that grows 25% year on year in a healthy way, maturing at a pace and at a strong pace. So that's what we're seeing here.
Actually, I did hear quite a bit of that yesterday in terms of that cynicism around the startup investor equation, and that quick return expectation. It doesn't work in this market.
No, yeah, like you see all these passionate people, and all this passion is very infectious. And kind of a lot of people in the ecosystem started to kind of infect investors as well, and then started to pour in money. And I think the investors got a bit too excited about this. I mean, it makes sense you get excited about this because we're excited. But it doesn't mean that you can benchmark this with the type of returns you can do as a software as a service platform, and it was a good lesson for these investors.
So, what do you see as the metrics you measure your success by over the last 5 years? I mean, I think you put out an announcement. You've achieved 1.5 million connections on the Things network, and what's that? 2.5 billion messages a day or a month.
Yep.
So, 1.5 million connected is small in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about billions of connected devices. Just tell us a little bit about the story there.
So this market is developing, right? So, it's going at a certain steady pace. And what you're saying from a silicon perspective, selling 1.5 million units, I mean, there are account managers that wouldn't even step into the plane for such a design deal. Yet, if you look at the kind of total cost of ownership of that 1.5 million devices, and you look at an average total cost of ownership of $300 per device, the base we're supporting and the investments our customers did in other components is around $500 million. So 1.5 million is not a lot, but if you benchmark it to the effort that has to be taken to get them into place, to make the data flowing, and that effort has been massively underestimated, hence the lack of scalability of the market. The only thing is that now exponential effects or kind of multipliers are getting in place. So what you'll see is that there's more off-the-shelf devices, there's higher maturity, there are all these things coming together. Why this space is now accelerating? We have, so just to give you a bit of insight in our business model, we charge per device basically, in a subscription model per year. But it's highly fragmented across our base. So our biggest customer is not even 5% of our revenue. But what we see is that there's a lot of things cooking. So we already see customers that have plans to go to a few million, and so there is kind of what we see in our data. There is this very strong bottom-up growth effect, and that's replacing the more top-down VC IoT, telco IoT, or corporate IoT hypothesis that you can kind of bring it top-down. So that's a bit what we can see, and I can only confirm 1.5 million for somebody in Silicon is, yeah.
I suppose I think people also have to understand. I'm not sure everybody fully understands there's two aspects to you. There's this whole ecosystem development, but there's also your business.
Yeah.
And maybe just sort of make sure that people in very simple terms understand what you do and what you're doing for the community.
Yeah, so basically if you build a LoRaWAN network, you have to build your own network. You have to set up gateways and you have to pick a device or build a device. And for the data to flow over the LoRa RF, we use a product open standard called LoRaWAN, and that needs a piece of middleware that allows that network and these devices to talk with your IT systems. Right. And that piece of middleware that manages the devices, the networks, and the security, that's where we are now market leader in. And we do that in a managed solution where we run it for you, or in an industrial setting or utility setting, you can run it on premise. So that's our bread and butter. We run this, as we said, with a mantra, let's build this thing together, because we we see that projects are successful if there is a good collaboration on integration, a good fair share of profit margin mentality, kind of all the cliches for building a good business partnership, and not a winner takes all mentality. And that's why we're doing these industry events, because we want to kind of infect people with the excitement of how cool it is that you pull off projects together.
Well, you certainly infect people. I've seen that over the years, but with that enthusiasm. Sorry, just for the audience. Lastly, tell us a little bit about the key announcements. You've got your generic node, you've got the D2D, and just give us a couple of highlights from this show.
Yeah, so the core platform basically is the basics. It's literally LoRaWAN messages going from a fridge in a supermarket to their food compliance system, and we do everything in between. But there's also a lot of innovation. So we're launching an innovation called Relay, where if devices have limited coverage, we can extend the coverage with a relay, and we also have a relay where where the message is relayed to a satellite, 36,000 kilometers above the equator.
EchoStar announcement.
Yeah, so it's our partnership with EchoStar, but we already do this for a while with Lacuna Space, and so it's all integrated in the same platform using the same standard. So you have the harmonization of your integration on the IT system side. The devices from a hardware perspective are quite similar, and basically you can build devices that either use terrestrial networks, and when there's no terrestrial network they can switch to a satellite network, and then actually they can select 2 different networks.
Right.
So yeah, that's very exciting.
And what can we expect next year then, Wienke?
So I think the focus now more is kind of, I think this is a market that shows a linear growth. So, and you're looking for an exciting kind of what's the next one more thing, or like what's the...
In your presentation, you very Steve Jobs style, and one more thing.
Yeah, it was a nice hint, but I think it's very linear, but I do think that at some point, if the devices become more mature, the network management becomes more mature, I anticipate for a pivotal moment in the next 5 years that we've seen also in mobile app development. And at some point in time, I think it was somewhere around 2012, 2013, you had people saying, "Why isn't there an app for that?" It's like joking around. People, because they understood the capability of your smartphone. And I think there's going to be a pivotal moment where people, if they're technical or not, operational or management, or kind of feel with their feet on the ground, will say, "Why isn't there a sensor for that? Why isn't there a tracker for that? Why isn't there an alert for that? Yeah. Why am I doing this manually?" And we're not there yet, right? We are here still outlaws and kind of making it work. But there's going to be this moment that a broader audience is going to understand the benefits, and multi-stakeholders are going to see that, and that's going to be the inflection point. We just have to wait.
Wienke, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this interview.